Well, for more, we can speak to our international affairs commentator, Douglas Herbert. Hello to you, Doug.
How are you, Will?
It was at times difficult to watch the debate. Joe Biden seemed to have one job: reassure the American people of his health, and that didn't seem to come out.
Yeah, the emerging, and I have to call it the emerging media narrative the morning after, barely, because the U.S. is just waking up early, is that Biden failed a golden opportunity to do what was his principal objective here, which is to reassure tens of millions of Americans, but most specifically the key crucial votes in the so-called battleground states, there's maybe 100,000 of them that will decide the outcome of this election, to convince those voters that he is vital, that he is healthy, that he is dynamic, that he is mentally acute, and that he is ready to go. And the problem is, it's all about optics, right? We talked about this debate going in this digital age, in the media age, the cyber age, everything is about not just the pre-debate spin, as you will, but the post-debate spin. Less important than the actual substance of the debate is how it's perceived, how it is spun, the optics that emerge in the minutes and hours following the debate. So we're in the thick of that right now. And that narrative is that, no, he did not live up to that task. He did not prove to the skeptical Americans, the Americans who wanted to take him at his word when he told reporters, "You don't think I'm up to a second term?" He said, "Watch me." Those were his words, "Watch me." So they were literally doing that tonight, right? Last night in the U.S., they were riveted to the screens and they were watching him. And he did not convince many, at least according to sort of the snap polls, the snap opinion surveys being taken, that he was up to the task. It doesn't mean that Donald Trump did a tremendous job. A lot of people are of the mind that, in a sense, Biden scored an own goal because they see Trump as a relatively easy target. I think the New York Times counted 26 lies by Donald Trump during this debate. Outright lies, exaggerations, falsehoods, if you will, misleading claims. Biden was seen as not being able to exploit those, not being able to counterpunch in an aggressive enough manner, basically letting Trump get away with the equivalent of debate murder, if you will. And the debate itself devolved into a lot of issues where even if Biden did show that, he wanted to concentrate on issues, there was a point at which it devolved into a skirmish over their golfing handicaps, who could beat who in a golfing tournament. So there was the mundane in this debate as well. But Biden, it was not a good night. And whether you're a Biden supporter or not a Biden supporter, you got to sort of be brutally honest. And a lot of Democrats right now are being brutally honest by saying, we like Biden, we like his policies, we think he's been a very good president for America. He had a bad night. In fact, he had a very bad night, and he has to do something about that.
Yeah, and some people are even saying they're doing second guessing. What are the chances that he could step aside, as some Democrats are suggesting?
Well, you're bringing up the $64 million question there, Will. What are the chances? There's always a chance, right? There's been talk for many months of what's called an open convention. You know as well as I, an open convention used to be the norm in U.S. presidential politics. It was literally that, a convention at which all of the delegates from all the 50 states arrive, not knowing who the party's candidate's going to be. Why? Because the whole point of the convention is to have floor debates and speeches that give the delegates then sort of their grist to make their decision. Who's our best candidate? There's been talk, should that be the case this year? Now, let's be very clear. Even if the Democratic National Committee and all of it, the king's horses and all the king's men, were to march into the Oval Office tomorrow, and I'm not saying this is about to happen, and say, Mr. President, we love you, we support you, you've been great for the country. We really think you need to step aside in favor of someone who has the vitality and the vigor to lead a campaign, because the ultimate objective is beating Trump. You can't wage your policies and help the country if you don't beat your rival in November. We need someone who can do that. We don't believe it's you. Even if he were fed that line tomorrow, it's ultimately his decision. So the question becomes, and I'm not a fly on the wall in any of these places, wish I were, who behind the scenes is bringing what kind of pressure, perhaps, to bear on the president at this hour? We hear a lot of official people going out there, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, even Joe Biden's wife. They've been trying to spin it favorably, essentially saying he had a bad night, but he's a good president. Let's not forget that he was up against a man who ultimately is a lying narcissist who would be extremely dangerous for American democracy. But those people aside, the question is, are there other voices in the party who Biden does listen to, that he does respect, who might be the so-called Biden whisperers right now, telling him, you got to step aside? That is an open question. If I were a betting man and you asked me, I would say he probably is not going to of his own volition, because I believe he honestly and earnestly believes he still is the best person to beat Donald Trump, despite what the optics are suggesting from last night's debate.